Hey everyone, welcome to episode 293 of the Artist Connection podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kesar, and this is a very special episode, so we're going to jump right in. My returning guest and very good friend is Law. Welcome back, sir.
Hey man, glad to be back. How you doing, man?
Oh, it's great. It's always good to have you here, talk to you. I get to see you online and social media, Facebook and Twitter throughout the months, but having these one-on-one conversations is always the highlight of my time.
Oh wow, thank you so much, man. I enjoy sharing information, and knowledge is power. So it's always good to converse with somebody else that knows like you know. So again, thank you so much.
Well, it's been since December. I think that's when we last spoke, early in December, and
hmm
then, of course, you were on the Christmas episode. So I would normally say, "What have you been up to?" or "What's new in your world and in the world of music?" But I know that we lost so many people since the last time you and I hung up the phone.
Oh man,
It's
wow.
almost too much to take.
Yeah, yeah. It's been rough. It's been really, really rough.
Where to begin? I mean, I know that there's big ones, and there's ones that everybody's talking about, and you see when you lose a David Bowie and when you lose a Prince, everybody's putting their own little tributes up about what the music meant to them. In my world,
hmm
vinyl record prices go through the roof because everybody's trying to sell their David Bowie record for $100 that was normally $5 a week before. But
hmm
there's all that crap that you have to sort through. But I know for you and I, the music means much more than any of that superficial crap. So I'm looking forward to talking to you right now and kind of cutting through some of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can get into it, man. It's a lot to discuss.
Where would you like to begin? The ball's in your court.
Um. Well, I mean, first and foremost, let me just say that you know, these deaths are not in vain. I mean, when we spoke last in December, I had just went out to Hawaii with my Element Music crew to do a show for some good friends of mine, and of course, one of the guests is my musical big bro Lionel Richie. And we had a ball, you know what I mean? And we were talking about doing some things together as well for the future and everything else. And he jumped up on stage with us, and we had a ball, man. We had a pure ball of doing music on stage. And then the very next day, I get the call that the incomparable Natalie Cole passed away,
That's right.
and that just that was a hard one, a very hard one for me because my mother, who's a dope singer in her own right. As I know, my family's my primary influence first before any celebrity or anybody that we listen to on record. And my mom studied Natalie Cole and Shaka Khan and Patti LaBelle albums intensely. So that was definitely a part of my development as a singer. You know what I mean? And to lose someone like her, who was able to sing jazz, R&B, and so many different styles of music, it just was a lot. And then right after that, Maurice White from Earth, Wind and
That's
Fire.
right.
And I think we've had many conversations. I don't think I have to tell you what EWF means to me as a musician.
Right.
So it's, you know what I mean? It was just a lot. Then, Fife Dog from A Tribe Called Quest, definitely. Funny thing is that Fife's father used to come to the spot where I played at back in the mid to late 90s called Loaders on West 22nd between 5th and 6th. And I was in my uncle and my aunt's band, Eternity, and we were the top band in New York City. And Fife's father would actually come down and hang out with us. And Fife came down a couple of times too and had a chance to talk to the brother a couple of times. He's a real nice guy. And that hit hard because I'm a diehard Tribe Called Quest fan, and so is my DJ Khalif. His favorite album is The Low End Theory. So it was a lot. Then, of course, David Bowie. I mean, I know I'm missing a few in between all this too, but David Bowie, of course, the visionary, the Thin White Duke, Aladdin Sane, Ziggy Stardust.
Right.
I can go on and on, man. It was a lot. And that brings us to probably the hardest blow that I've took so far. And for a lot of other people too, but mainly because of the fact that most of my fans who've been following me forever, and of course, people who grew up with me and saw my early beginnings, they knew, how much Prince meant to me. So, I guess we can kind of now start from there because there's a lot with that.
Well, it is, and I can just tell from your posts as each of those people that you mentioned as they passed. I mean, such heartfelt tributes that you would put up to each of those people, you could tell you really meant it. It was so far beyond. I remember the first time I listened to that, or the first time I heard that person's voice. I mean, this felt like it really hit home for you in a big way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, um, my early start, outside, like I told you earlier, outside of my own family, Michael Jackson, Prince, Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, and New Edition, those became my main influences before I started to get deeper with music. But the ironic part of it is that all of those artists, especially Prince, is what led to my music knowledge and development. Because y'all always tell me, and Lord's an encyclopedia of knowledge and different things like that. And I take that, But the thing is that a lot of that had to do with my legendary grandfather being who he was, and schooling me, and then me paying attention, and then me researching things for myself. But then as an artist, some things you can't learn in a book. Some things you just have to learn by simply listening and immersing yourself into your influences. And, though Michael Jackson was my first primary hero outside of my family, it was Prince that really kind of showed me that there were no limits to what I could do. And not to say that Michael had limits, but it's just that Prince was going somewhere that I really, really wanted to go.
Now, what's your first Prince memory? What's your earliest memory of hearing him?
My earliest memory?
Yeah.
My first memory, I was 5 years old. I Want to Be a Lover used to play on the radio a lot. Now, I didn't know it was Prince at times. I'm still a kid. I didn't know. But
right.
Every time that song came on, my mother said I would just start smiling, shaking, and singing, and trying my best to sound like, the high falsetto that
right.
Prince had.
Yeah.
And then I found out years later that it wasn't in vain, because as it turns out, my mom, my born-again Christian mom, who sang gospel and R&B and funk, was a diehard Prince fan. She went to go see Prince during the Dirty Mind tour. See, I didn't know all this stuff. I was still a kid. No, you learn all this stuff later. And that explains everything for me. When I finally learned that my mom went to the Roxy or the Ritz to go see Prince during the Dirty Mind tour, it made so much sense. I'm like, you know what? I guess I was born to like this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess in that sense, it became that. That was my earliest memory. But of course, being an 80s and a 90s baby, of course, I think like all kids in my circumference during that period, it didn't really register until Purple Rain came out.
Sure. Because
Purple Rain was such a, it's kind of like what Thriller was for Michael, what Like a Virgin was for Madonna, what Private Dancer was for Tina Turner, and what Can't Slow Down was for Lionel Richie. Like, it really became the thing that made him one of the biggest pop stars, if you will, in our movement. And matter of fact, all the people who I just mentioned to you, I actually have a thing that I call them. I'm actually going to write it as a part of my book that I'm going to put out probably next year or so. It's called the Black Pop Movement. And the Black Pop Movement is pretty much comprised of all of these artists, black artists, who had success the decade before, but in the 80s they were able to have even more success or sustain the success that they had, even if they had a few drop-offs. And then it also included the new people that came in, like Whitney Houston and Luther Vandross, who already had paid some dues right before he hit big with Never Too Much. So Prince had came out in 78, and, the first two albums were pretty successful, but it wasn't until 1999 and Purple Rain that Prince became that guy. Like, it's like, oh, shit, we got to watch him. And, of course, for me and my brother and a few of my cousins, it was really the declaration. Like, after I saw Purple Rain, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
I think the movie,
that was pretty much, yeah.
The movie had such a big impact, too, because you have that, I mean, that album alone would stand alone and be up there with all the other artists that you mentioned in the same breath. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, then, we have this hour-and-a-half long feature film to bring the music to life. And maybe, I know a lot of that movie was autobiographical about him, so he's living kind of his own life.
Actually, believe it or not, yeah, it really was.
Really?
Prince has often said that the majority of that is not really about his life or
interesting.
his dad. Yeah, oh yeah, he's always